It seems loneliness is becoming more and more of an issue for Canadians these days, especially for the elderly. So, how do those who are alone deal with situations that come up like sickness or some other kind of crisis? Well, joining us from Brampton to chat about this more is Kathy Costa. She is the Director of Compassionate Community Care. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kathy. Great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Kathy, maybe give us a brief little overview of what compassionate community care is all about.
So, Compassion Community Care is a registered charity comprised of healthcare professionals and volunteers who provide support to vulnerable persons and their families during times of illness or crisis.
Okay, how widespread is the challenge of loneliness for seniors in Canada? Is it rising?
It is. And in our estimation, what we see through both our helpline and what we call the Hope Line is that calls are coming at a faster pace more often, especially towards the holidays. We get a number of calls leading up into Christmas, times like Easter and Thanksgiving, where we see loneliness is drawing more and more people to call and reach out.
Wow. Okay. So tell us how your Connecting with Seniors project calling service works. Who is this for, and what are your target people?
Community of Hope Outreach, Connecting with Seniors Project, is a Canada wide initiative to provide regular check ins by phone or Zoom with seniors who may not be able to receive an in person visitor. And that is hosted currently with our volunteers, which do these calls and make it available to Canadians.
That's so interesting. So, how do you find out about the people who would benefit from a phone call or a Zoom call? Do they themselves contact you first, or can someone else refer them to you?
Absolutely. So we just heard from a member when they received a postcard in the mail from a sympathetic organization, and they called us asking about what we do, and we shared about the fact that we have this available to seniors across Canada, anyone age 55 and up. And they were astonished. They said this is an answer to our prayers. And she literally, the lady on the phone said she was in her late 80s. She was living alone. She had no family, and she felt really isolated. And that this calling service would be a newfound opportunity for her. And she had no idea it even existed. And she thought that it was so hopeful to know that we offer this service.
Oh, that's so lovely. So, what would a typical phone conversation sound like, and how long would it last? How often do calls get made to the same person?
Absolutely. So our goal is to pair seniors who are interested in having and receiving calls by volunteers who are committed. And so we are often looking for people who want to volunteer at minimum for a quarter to 2 quarters, so roughly 3 to 6 months in duration, to at least have that longevity with the call that they can continue to be present in that senior's life and have a reliable, dependable, and a trusted person that they will know will be calling them. And when they hear about it, they often want to extend that service and even have more callers. So it is something that is growing, and it's especially something that I think will continue to draw more interest across Canada as people become aware of it.
Yeah, I would imagine that these people are building relationships too. It must be hard after that time frame to just kind of cut it off. Do you find that people continue sometimes with the relationship with the person?
Absolutely, absolutely. We continue to speak on a regular basis, and oftentimes when new callers come on board, they will have again a sympathetic ear and someone that wants to reach out to them on a regular basis. So it really does bring in a reliable, significant relationship in someone's life, a friendship that's really friendly. Yes,
And then there's
absolutely.
that sense of trust as well, because they're probably divulging all kinds of, information about themselves and their life stories and whatnot. How long would a typical conversation last?
So anywhere between half an hour to an hour, roughly. And we find that the calls happen every week, which is suitable for both the callers and those who are being called. But again, they can be accommodated and changed based on the person's flexibility and their availability as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, they must really look forward to that time every week. I can
Absolutely.
imagine. What kind
Yes.
of feedback are you getting from phone call recipients?
Absolutely. So the phone calls have been extremely positive. The feedback has been overwhelmingly appreciative, and just simply showing that they really value the time that we spend with them on the phones or on Zoom, and they want to extend this to other people as well. So currently, we actually are looking for more seniors to join us on the calls. So if anyone wants to be called, we definitely encourage you to reach out to us, regardless of where you are in Canada. We will make that opportunity made available to you. So we encourage many seniors to join us and come on board.
Right, right. Of course, like in the news lately, we've been hearing a lot about MAID or medical assisted suicide. In your experience, do these kinds of phone calls even prevent individuals for asking for assisted suicide or MAID?
Absolutely. We find that when people feel abandoned, they will reach out and look for things like euthanasia or assisted suicide. And that's a sad point that we see most often when people don't know about things like our service that are made available to them. When they do hear about this service, it definitely encourages them. I just heard of a story last night where a young woman was meeting regularly with a woman who was in a nursing home, and the woman was quite, often she felt abandoned by the people around her, her family, her friends. And when this young woman started visiting her, just simply visiting her every week, it changed her life. And 6 months later, she found out that the woman had told her and confided and said, I'm so happy that you've been visiting me, and I have to tell you that before you came here as a volunteer, I was looking to have euthanasia. And she decided, she changed her mind because this visitor was dedicated and committed to seeing her every week. And they would play Scrabble. And there's something so simple, but simply by being with another individual, you can make all the difference.
Look at the impact that she's making on somebody's entire life, really. Right. And I
Absolutely.
understand your organization also offers some education and alternative options to anyone in that situation where they are considering MAID.
Right, exactly. And so what we do is we provide a holistic approach to an individual. If they encounter a situation, which we often see is the case, that they are distressed because they don't have either suitable accommodations, or they feel sad, lonely, depressed, distraught, perhaps despair even, we can refer them to trusted counselors who are established, credible, and safe for them to contact and speak with them. We also will offer a referral if someone has encountered pain that they cannot or does not feel that they can be managed appropriately or adequately. We can refer them to a second medical pain expert or specialist and a professional who will be able to look at that situation and see if there's an opportunity to tweak and alter some of the things that they're doing to help them maneuver through that and manage that pain so that they can be in a better place and feel better about their treatment and options.
Oh, that's
And there's other
interesting.
things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mhm. Yep. So other things we offer too is simply speaking to the individual. If it's an advocacy or family relational type of issue, we will often see that there's an opportunity to share in that dialogue with the family and partner with them so that they can find solutions that are work and help them to come to a better place.
Okay, and then along that same vein, you advocate for patients who are questioning maybe the kind of medical treatment or personal care that they're being offered. And are you able to maybe give us an example of what that might look like?
Sure. So sometimes we find that a person will not know about certain treatments that are made available or could be available to them. And so simply by calling us, they can get a second opinion or a second chance to revisit some of the options that might be an opportunity for them to examine in their treatment issues. An example, for example, would be a person who is, later in life, and we just had a lady who called us about this. She had shared with us that a friend of hers was in her late 80s and an otherwise routine procedure was not offered to her to fix a problem. And so when she reached us, she said, well, she was offered euthanasia. She wasn't offered the treatment. And I said to her, at this age, they may have said that to her because simply they didn't want to encourage her to go in and have another operation. But traditionally, this is something that is operated on and this can be fixed. So that person could be made, aware of that. And if she were to share that with her, she could go and seek out another opinion potentially. And that did happen. In fact, that issue was remedied and with a routine procedure, and the person sought that and it worked. So
Mm. Amazing. I would imagine sometimes there could maybe be conflict among decision makers and family members of a loved one. So, how would you be able to help in a situation like that?
Sure. So oftentimes we find that it is important to have a certain ability to advocate on behalf of the family in the persons who are involved in just simply sharing what is happening. We had a situation like this as well where we had differing opinions on both sides of the family. And with relation to the treatment their loved one was receiving, and it happened to be a parent in this situation. So, of the two parties, one party felt that they were neglecting their parent, their mother, and then the other side, they said that she was already at end of life, that they had exhausted all opportunities. And so this was really a issue of confirming what was being told to them by the medical team, and in fact ensuring that the person was receiving adequate care that involved both their pre-existing conditions but also the situation that they were presently in, and looking at the evidence of what was being offered to them and why they were at the stage that they were at. And so we found that there was a common ground by simply being intermediaries between the two parties and speaking to them rationally and logically, reasonably, so that they understood. And also, we were able to articulate to them what was the position at the place of the patient. What did they want? What were their preferences in this situation? So, based on that evidence, we could make a reasonable approach in terms of what was necessary and help advocate on behalf of the patient, but also in between the two parties.
Oh, wow. And then I understand that you also advocate for elderly who may be suffering abuse. So, what kinds of things constitute elder abuse, and what should folks be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. There are so many instances of elder abuse when people start corresponding or speaking to someone on a regular basis. They might find that a person feels pressure to do certain things by their family or loved ones. Some examples would maybe financial abuse. And most often we see that happening within the family potentially if a person feels that they are being manipulated, or they may not say that, but they feel that they're obliged to help fund certain things for the rest of their family, for the children, for example. So a normal trip to the grocery store ends up being groceries for someone else and not for them. And yet that person ends up falling short. We see other examples of where people may feel that their care is being neglecting, and they feel a sense of abandonment, but they don't voice that. And so this is an important point that if, for example, there's not enough adequate resources or staff available to feed a person, we often see this is the case too, that a person may be having early onset dementia and they're not being fed properly or adequately. And so that person starts to, lose weight, and it starts to affect their physical well-being. So it's very important for family members to be involved directly in relationship with their loved ones and ensure that they're getting adequate treatment, nourishment, food. This is important, pivotal. And we saw this especially during the lockdowns and unfortunately during COVID, where one member called us and she had said that she would go and see her mother repeatedly, daily to feed her. And unfortunately, after lockdowns happened, her mother passed away about 2 weeks later. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's a sad story, but some good information that you're offering there, and some great work that your organization is doing. Are you looking for more volunteers to make phone calls or visits to lonely seniors? And how does a
Absolutely.
person, yeah, how do people do that?
Absolutely. So we offer a free online virtual training session. It's called the Being with My Story Visitors Training, and it is a volunteer program. So if you're interested in volunteering in your community, it is a wonderful opportunity to apply to your own network where you can start volunteering very quickly. And it's what I call the launching program. It's a jump start. It's a turnkey operation opportunity because people literally take our program. It's 4 hours in length, and that includes Q&A. And you can do it in person. We've been invited to places across Canada, from the west to the east and centrally here in Ontario. And we offer these both in person but also online, wherein we can have a group go through the training, learn how to be a visiting compassionate visitor, and be able to visit effectively in their communities. And so it's a wonderful opportunity. We encourage people to use reminiscent therapy. So we have a booklet. It's called the My Story booklet, and I'll just show it to you here as an example. And it's a speak to use. Oh, it's an interview style workbook. So we start from the beginning of their life to their current state, going through their whole lifespan, how they grew up, who they.
Wow. So it becomes like a book of memoirs.
Exactly,
I love
absolutely.
that.
Yes, it's a living legacy. And so they can then pass that along and inherit it to, bring it to their children, their grandchildren. And it becomes a wonderful opportunity to share their wisdom, their information, their memories, and really is a healing opportunity and tool for many people because so many people don't have an opportunity to share about who they are and really share that their life has meaning and purpose and value. And all of that comes through in those visits because they start to reminisce about their life and who they love, that they were loved, and that they shared an important role in many lives. And so it is a really great opportunity for many people to be part of. Yes.
Yeah. And I would imagine the volunteer taking the dictation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
What
Yes.
a neat little thing to do. And I bet they just absolutely love it that somebody's taking the time to actually care to ask these questions. And then it gives them
Absolutely.
the chance to walk down memory lane. It's beautiful.
Yes. It is. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Kathy, thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate having you on and learning more about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kathy Matuziak Costa is the Director of Compassionate Community Care. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.